Good morning. It's February 13th, and this is To My Liberal Friends. Well, Democrats have passed out their talking points, and at the top of the list, it seems the words constitutional crisis are appearing. Every Democrat must memorize this phrase and repeat it at every opportunity. They're hoping that somehow you'll believe them. If there's a constitutional crisis in this country, it's not within the executive branch, but rather the judicial branch. It's obvious that Democrats are floundering to find something of a message after losing last November. They're no longer interested in talking about real facts. And guess what? They're no longer in the basement of the White House. That's where Joe Biden sat while being coached by staff. They're in the minority in the House, and they're in the minority in the Senate. Basically, they're a political party without any real political power. Donald Trump, on the other hand, has lots of political power, and he's hell-bent on using it. He's like a whirlwind in the Oval Office as he issues one executive order after another. He's also used his appointed staff to start whittling down the size of the federal bureaucracy. And this has not set well with the Democrats. It is gaining approval among the American people, so that's forced Democrats to go to the courts to try and thwart the Trump agenda. As I said yesterday, they do what is called a legal community forum shop. They look for a judge who will be sympathetic to their pleas, and the judge to issue some order that prevents Trump from carrying out his agenda. And once again, the Democratic Party, when thwarted at the ballot box, has turned to judges to impose its will on the public. As many as 10 federal judges have recently ruled against President Donald Trump's proposed budget cuts, spending freezes, transgender policies, and push to end birthright citizenship, as well as to access to data by Trump-appointed auditors in trying to identify waste, fraud, and abuse. And this usurpation of the powers of the executive and legislative branches by government by the judicial branch, ideologically aligned with Democrats, should be considered dangerous, regardless of one's political affiliation. It's an abuse of authority that the Founding Fathers recognized as a threat to the public. The Founding Fathers wrote about this in the Federalist Papers. For example, in Federalist 78, Alexander Hamilton cautioned that judges might exercise their will instead of the judgment interpreting laws. It also stressed the importance of judges remaining impartial, noting the, quote, independent spirit in the judges, end quote, was paramount to a faithful performance of so arduous a duty. Furthermore, consider Federalist 81, in which Hamilton discussed the fears and concerns over judicial activism. Hamilton warned that if judges prioritized passion over politics over the law and construed it, then this would enable the judiciary to develop its own rules. Quote, the power of construing the laws according to the spirit of the Constitution will enable that court to mold them into whatever shape it may think proper, especially as its decisions will not in any manner subject to the revision or correction of the legislative body, end quote. Do Hamilton's words ring true today? We have judges using their own political beliefs to stop the executive branch from exercising the rights granted to the executive branch in Article 2. During the Reagan presidency, an activist district judge, Russell Clark, who was appointed by Jimmy Carter, tried to dictate tax policy in the state of Missouri. He ordered a 150% increase in property tax and a 1.5% income tax to fund desegregation plans in Kansas City, Missouri. A noble idea, but not within his jurisdiction. The Supreme Court overturned that decision, making it clear by unanimous 9-0 decision that judges do not have the right to set tax policy. And I point this out because it's not new. These district court judges routinely think they can use their own political views to dictate policy for not only their area, but for the nation. Another example was Judge Stelton Henderson issued an injunction against California Prop 209, which would have dismantled the state's affirmative action programs. He was overturned by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, and the majority opinion is one that should resonate with everyone. Chief Judge Diarmuid O'Scanlan wrote, quote, a system that permits one judge to block with a stroke of a pen what 4,736,180 state residents voted to enact as law tests the integrity of our constitutional democracy, end quote. This week we saw this judicial restraint again. Judge George O'Toole had stopped the Office of Personnel Management from implementing the buyout of federal workers. He removed that TRO yesterday and allowed the program to move forward, saying the unions that filed the suit didn't have standing. And guess what? 75,000 federal workers have accepted it. And that's the problem we face with the judiciary. While they're supposed to be impartial referees, we have watched the judiciary in the past several decades become very politicized. In years past, judicial nominations passed through the Senate with little fanfare and with very few dissenting votes. Today, they're highly scrutinized, and politics dictates how senators vote on judicial nominees. We've all witnessed the spectacles of the Supreme Court nominations, but as they get played out on a smaller scale for district and appellate nominees. Because presidents make these nominations, it's hard to accept that the nominees are without political bias. It's for that reason that Democrats now seek to thwart the will of the voters by going to friendly judges, asking for restraining orders, and to outright blockage of programs recommended by a president they detest. It doesn't seem to matter to them if the program has merit or not. They want it stopped. Eventually, these cases will make their way up the judicial ladder to the Supreme Court. And if they are then reversed, you can hear Chuck Schumer and his fellow Democrats now as they stand on the steps of the court threatening to come for them. This has been To My Liberal Friends. Thanks for listening.